The Denver Broncos have officially ended their preseason practices, meaning the next time they hit the practice field, it will be in preparation for Week 1 against the Tennessee Titans. Welcome in Broncos country to the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. A little bit more casual today. I've got my Broncos blacked out cap on, but I do want to touch on what Sean Payton said about two key defensive players, both of whom, by the way, you should know they are some big names, especially in that linebacker room. And we're going to talk about what he had to say, plus touch on some more practice squad news that our head coach kind of delivered to us in his press conference. But like I said, preseason's officially over, baby. If you're ready for Week 1, hit that thumbs up icon. And if you don't hit the thumbs up icon, it's showing me right now that you're not ready for Week 1. And in that case, you got to get ready, my friend. All right, so let's talk about Payton's presser for a second. He answered questions about the 53-man roster, and then he gave a key plan for Dre Greenlaw and Alex Singleton, the subject of today's video. And then he talked a little bit about the practice squad and their roles, which I thought were really interesting. And I'm going to talk about some players that could be called up sooner rather than later. But let's start with the linebackers, Dre Greenlaw and Alex Singleton, Subject A and Subject B. Here's what Sean Payton said specifically about these two. When asked if they were going to be on a pitch count, he said, yes, absolutely. We have to be smart. Alex is coming off of an injury. Dre is coming back. We have to be smart and look at pitch counts and be ready to play some younger players and not just say Week 1. We're throwing them out there for 70 plays. This, by the way, is not shocking. I figured that we would see this earlier on in the season. Now, I know Sean Payton said it's not just going to be Week 1. But you have to remember that these two specifically have already dealt with some injuries this preseason. Alex Singleton broke his thumb. And Dre Greenlaw has been dealing with some soft tissue injuries, but it's more so precautionary so that they are ready to go Week 1. Now, the assumption is that the pitch count will be higher for Singleton more so than it would be for Greenlaw. And I can't say that I blame that because Alex Singleton's injuries have been far more extensive recently than Dre Greenlaw's have been. But as a on-the-field perspective for both of these players, you're going to be looking at a lot different stylistically, although they play almost the exact same role. Dre Greenlaw's game is built on power. It's built on force. It's built on dominance. He is a true middle linebacker that hits hard, right? He is one of those players that can not only do it dropping back in coverage, but he's going to want to climb the box and stuff the run. I truly believe that even though he might not play nearly as much on the line of scrimmage, you are looking at a player that can set the tone and command the offense with his voice. His communication is going to be leaned upon. Whereas Alex Singleton feels a lot more like your free range and roaming linebacker. Somebody that is a tackling machine, but is just all over the field. Left, right, center. He's got a lot more tackles for loss than Dre Greenlaw does. Somebody that will play up on the line of scrimmage a little bit more than Greenlaw will because of his ability to come off the edge a little bit more. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to be blitzed a lot and attack the quarterback nearly as much, but someone that can also set the edge alongside the likes of Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper. So when Cooper and Bonito are attacking the quarterback, off the edge, Alex Singleton kind of floats out into that flat a little bit and stops the run. Or in the event that you have a mobile quarterback, Alex Singleton's going to be your player that keeps an eye, kind of like that QB spy, if you will. Mike Kliss went on to talk a little bit more about the roles of Alex Singleton and Dre Greenlaw. And he said until he suffered a torn ACL last year, Singleton was a 100% playtime linebacker. If he takes more than 3 or 4 plays off against Tennessee, it's got to be a surprise. Greenlaw, though, has been dealing with soft tissue issues, which experienced Justin Strnad is ready as the top linebacker. Greenlaw may play closer to 50% in that early part of the season. So Kliss disagrees with me. I assume that it'll be Singleton because of his more recent injuries, that he'll be having a little bit more of a snap count. Kliss believes that it's going to be Dre Greenlaw. Either way, These are the linebackers to keep an eye on throughout the season. These are the players that, in my opinion, if they go down, this was the group that we had the most concerns about and the most red flags on. So I can disagree with Mike Kliss, and I realize that he's out there boots on the ground pretty much every day. So maybe he has a better idea than I do. But I have to think that with Singleton's more recent injury history, he is a player that they're going to keep a closer eye on at this point. Whereas Dre Greenlaw has been out more for precautionary reasons rather than he's been dealing with these crazy amount of injuries. Does that make sense? So I'm going to ask you this question. Alex Singleton or Dre Greenlaw? Who has more tackles in 2025? I'm going to say it's Alex Singleton because prior to his injury last year, the last 2 seasons before that, he was at like 161 and 177 tackles. Dude is everywhere. Either way, let me know in the comment section down below. I also want to mention to you that depth is key here. And before we get up and talk about, these practice squad roles that Sean Payton has lined up, I do believe that with the additions of the depth and players like Justin Stranad and Karene Reed and some of the practice squad players, this is where the depth of the Broncos will absolutely shine. Because in the event that one of these players goes down, you don't have to be searching for someone that can command the middle of the field. You have the appropriate players to be called up and fill in that role. Now, before I talk about that practice squad, like I said, I do want to give a special shout out to today's sponsor. And that, of course, my friends at Harry's. Listen, the hairiest guy you know is talking about shaving. That's crazy, isn't it? Not really. But I personally trust Harry's with my personal grooming. It's not just shaving. And for right now, our listeners can get a crazy deal. They can get a Harry's trial set for only $8 plus a free gift at harrys.com/chat. Did your old razor dull too fast? Irritate your neck? Did it cost way too much? $20 for a 4-pack? That's insane. That's where Harry's comes in. They have a weighted ergonomic handle that gives you total control. No more slipping or awkward angles. It feels premium in your hand, balanced for a smoother, steadier shave. But they don't just make razors. They've got a full line of grooming essentials from shave gel to deodorant to body wash, all thoughtfully made and priced to stock up. For a limited time, our listeners can get Harry's trial set for only $8 plus a free gift at harrys.com/chat. Just head on over to harrys.com/chat to receive our exclusive discount. After you purchase, they're going to say, hey, where'd you hear about us? Please support our show and tell them that Moose from the Broncos Breakdown sent you. I will have all of that in the comments and description of today's video. So let's go back to the practice squad news because he was asked specifically, Sean Payton that being, was asked specifically about his views of the Broncos practice squad. And he was very high, had a lot of praise for all of the players on the practice squad, but classified them in 2 different groups. He called them Tidewaters and Joplins. And if you know anything about this, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, what on earth does that mean? It is a AAA baseball sort of reference. So here's what he had to say. He said there are 2 types of players on the practice squad. There's the developmental player, and we see a future, but it might be a year or 2 out, then that's a Joplin. That's what they consider their Joplin, a player that needs a little bit more time to develop, a player that is just getting into their football acumen and needs that appropriate amount of time to develop their skill. But then there's a Tidewater player, a AAA type of player, not someone who's like a single A or a double A, but a AAA player who's had experience in the big leagues, a veteran that can hold the fort. Is AAA in Tidewater? Yes. So there's a Joplin developmental player, then there's a Tidewater. The Tidewater players, we have a number of them that we feel confident in the event of an injury of a certain position. Bam, they're up. So the Tidewater player is someone that they feel more confident in their skill in order to be called up to the 53-man roster if there is an emergency. That's their Tidewater player. The Joplin player is one of those we need to see a little bit more time to develop in our system. That's essentially what it means. So who are the Tidewaters at this point? Sam Ehlinger, Calvin Throckmorton, Adam Prentice, who they believe can be called up more often than anybody on this list, Garrett Wallow, and of course, LaVelle Bailey, who might still be a younger player, but still has that experience and that talent to be called up in case of an emergency. And the Joplins, the ones that need a little bit more time to develop, being Caleb Lohner, Jordan Turner, Jaden Robinson, and Joe Michalski. And remember, a Joplin doesn't mean that you're a bad player. It just means that you need a little bit more time to develop. Caleb Lohner is the perfect example of what a Joplin would be. But I do expect a variety of players to move up this season. I actually believe that with how much depth the Broncos have on this practice squad and on this 53, you could see a multitude of different players and different combination of those players get called up to the 53. Now, it can't be too much because in the event that you try to bring them up 3 times, you know what happens. They have to get a contract. So Sean Payton's going to be very strategic about the players that he decides to bring up if he decides to bring them up for certain matchups, which leads me into my final question of today's episode. Which Bronco gets called up to the 53-man first? I got to think it's LaVelle Bailey. Either him or it's Adam Prentice. One of those two. Either way, you let me know in the comment section down below what you believe that player is going to be. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. A very happy Friday to you, Broncos country. I'll be back a little bit later on this weekend with more Broncos updates. And remember, I am getting married this next week, so I will try to get as many different cuts in for you as possible before I take off to Minneapolis. As always, my friends, a mile-high salute to you. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, be cool.